Welcome to my last weekly review of 2024. Today is Saturday, December 28th. We had a holiday shortened week last week, and we'll have another one this week as New Year's falls on Wednesday. And so last week, you're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, and on this holiday shortened week, it was up for the week, but a couple of problems that I see here with the Nasdaq, and that it had this upside reversal here as it made this low. This is the Wednesday where Powell spoke, where we had that 716 point loss, and it followed up the following session with another loss as it was rejected at the 21. But then we had this upside reversal that got through the 21. That was on a Friday, and then this Monday it traded above all of its moving averages, and then on Tuesday it was a shortened day, and so the volume you could see is lower, but it finished with this hammer candle here and it traded above 20,000. So things were looking good to take out the old high here of 20,204 on that Monday before Powell spoke. So this Tuesday is looking good, but then what happened on Thursday when we come back from Christmas, we have a stall day. And then on Friday, yesterday, we had kind of a whack day here where it traded below the 21. You can see the low of the session is below the 21. So kind of in no man's land again. I'm going to leave things on green because, the trend is your friend until it bends at the end. And this thing could be starting to bend here. I don't like it when the low is below the 21, but it closed above it. So, you got a 10 EMA, which is curling lower. Excuse me, I got to change this. That's the 5 EMA. The 5 EMA is definitely curling lower. So if you will indulge me for 1 minute, I will change this back to the 10. So yeah, the 10 even started curling lower on this on the Powell day, the whack day, and then now it's kind of going sideways. The 21 and the 50 are rising, so that's why, continue to stay, semi-bullish, but I am definitely concerned as we go into this part of the season where we have the tax selling, and it's just a very difficult and tricky time to trade the first couple of weeks of January. And I know we're in the Santa rally period, and everybody wants their Santa rally, but I want to err on the side of caution. And if we just look at the week last week, yeah, we bounced here off the moving average, and last week we were up, 149 points or 0.76%. We had an inside week. So there's nothing earth-shaking about that week. I mean, the volume was lighter because of the 3.5 days, but just an inside week. No harm, no foul right there. The trend is it's intact, and that's why I'm going to stay on green, but I am cautious and ready to bail. I did reduce some as we go into this period of time where it's always been really tricky because you don't know when the institutions are going to sell your stock for tax purposes, and they will at some point. All right, let's move on here. But I am bullish on the market, longer term. I want to get to the SPY, which is a little weaker than the Nasdaq. Let me get this out of here. Come on. This one undercut the 50, whereas the Nasdaq was just undercut the 21, and then it raised a bump above its moving averages here, but now on Friday it traded below its 50, so the SPY looks much weaker. And if we look at the RSP, which is the equal weight S&P index, you can see this one just has been whacked and trading a lot weaker. So this tells us that there's a lot of the larger market cap stocks that are propping up the S&P 500. And if we go to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, this one's already been faltering. It undercut the 50 on the Powell announcement day on the 18th, and now it cannot get above the moving average, and that's acting as resistance. So that doesn't look too good either. The IWM, kind of the same thing as the Dow undercut the 50, and now the moving averages are acting as resistance here. So the only one that looks good is the Nasdaq, and we know what's propping up the Nasdaq. And I'm going to get to that here in a minute here because I got to go to my Batman stocks, beginning with Broadcom. Another good week last week for Broadcom. Gosh, why is Market Surge doing this? It was up 9.5% last week. So I know people are you're griping on Friday that it was pulling back, but it's only 4% off of its high. And yeah, I did have a rough morning on Friday. If I go to a 5-minute chart, you can see the gap down, and this makes people nervous because you don't know how low it's going to go and how long they're going to sell. But buyers came in, had a nice high volume close on Friday. This is one of my three holdings right now. I'm holding Broadcom, ALAB, and Reddit, and that's about it. I had to just reduce, like I said, I'm just reducing exposure into this tough trading period here. But Broadcom's closed well above its 10, 6.2% above its 10. So that one looks good. Apple was making new highs. Yeah, on Friday it pulled back a little bit. Stop doing that. Pull back to its 10, found support and bounced. Let's take a look at the 5-minute for Apple. Nice sell-off. And then some buying into the close. If we look at the weekly for Apple, up 0.5%. It's been up how many weeks in a row? Yeah, volume was lower, but it was only 3.5 days last week. So to me, Apple still looks fine. Tesla, another stock that was up last week, 2.5% move for Tesla. I don't know why Market Surge is doing that every time. But anyway, yeah, Tesla looks fine. I know there was some selling the last couple of days. Pulled back to its 10 and actually closed 1% below its 10, which is, Tesla looks okay to me. There's going to be some profit taking, right? It's up more than 80% since the election. So Tesla's had a nice run. Microsoft, yeah, a little bit of weakness here. It pulled back to its 50, down 1.4% last week. And the other M, Meta Platforms, just kind of forming a little base here. Up 2.5% last week. Man, this is annoying. Yeah, anyway, closing at that buy point, standard buy point of 602.95 in a flat base here, but it's got to move out. It's trading a little bit like our friend NVDA, which hasn't gone anywhere for a long time. This is Amazon, and this is really annoying me. I don't know why it's doing this. Amazon down 0.5% last week, and then Google, how did it do in the week? Up 0.75%. It's been up 3 weeks in a row, since they announced that quantum chip Willow. So that looks good. And I mentioned NVIDIA, so I'm going to go there. The semiconductors are just barely hanging on. This one has been going sideways since it made this high in June, right, of 140.76, closed Friday at 137.01, so it hasn't gone anywhere. The high on Friday was last week was 141.90. So like I said, it hasn't gone anywhere for like 6 months. And that's NVIDIA. I'm going to go on, but first, before I move on to the stocks, I gauge the market, how the leading stocks are behaving. I just showed you a bunch of leading stocks, and they're doing okay. And then I'm going to show you some of the stocks that I like and some of the leading stocks, but there are some that are just have given up, for whatever reason. This is a Constellation trading. I got to ask Market Surge why it's doing that. It's really annoying me. Constellation, this is one of the leaders. It sold off, back here in November. It had a terrible December, and this thing, well below its 50. And this was a leader for a long time, but it's just can't get out of its own way now. Vistra, this is one of the leading stocks in the S&P 500 this year, up like 270%, but it's sold off below its 50 and just, I guess, forming a base. But man, these things are not looking good. Leading stocks should be making new highs and powering higher. This is Vertiv, no dice below the 50. Don't like it. You can see it broke out of this base here. Had just 3 weeks tight, ran up, made that high. And at the end of November at 145, and it's just pulled back ever since, $30 below, or 21% off the high, and below its 50 here. So yeah, just a lot of these. Carpenter, another one, steel stock, had a great year. You can see it all year. Why is it doing that? There's probably a reason, and a dummy like me can't figure it out. But you can see it's had a big year since January. This thing was what trading at $65. Had a hell of a year, but lately December just selling off. So maybe this is just profit taking. Maybe it's just a base, but you don't know. But it is concerning that a lot of these big movers have just been they've been selling off, trading below moving averages, and I don't like it. Sterling, another one in the heavy construction group. The cooling group, the comfort systems here has had a nice run. You can see below it's 50. Same with train. So that group, besides the home builders and all there's a lot of stocks that have sold off. I'm just showing you the leaders that had a big year that are just not doing well. Kava has been a leader in the retail restaurant group, made that high at 172 and it's just sold off. Yeah, 33.5% off of its high. So that doesn't look too good to me. Sweet Green, another leader in that group. Looks like it pulled back to its 200 here. Yeah, but man, that looks rough. So you got to be careful out there. When the leading stocks are selling off and you're holding now some leaders, you're thinking, well, they're going to sell those too at some point, right? Well, we don't know, but I'm going to look at some of the stocks that I like. Some obviously leader stocks. This is App 11. Had that massive run up to 417 now, but just pulled back to its 21. So that one's hanging on, doing okay, right? ServiceNow, another leader, hanging on to the 21, but I could see this one pulling back to the 50 easily. Walmart, which has had a hell of a run, major retail here, and below its 21. I'll go to the weekly. This is a weekly review. Yeah, there you can see that pullback. Only 5% off of its high. GoDaddy, a leading software name, just hanging in there. It had this 3 weeks tight pattern there. Only 3.6% off of its high. Yeah, GoDaddy looks fine. And you can see it, pulling back on the lighter volume here. If you could take a look at the daily GoDaddy, yeah, just pulling back to the 21. As long as it's above 200, above the 21, that looks pretty darn good. CLBT, this is the one that it's on my leading stock list. I don't talk about it much, but had this big move the prior week. A 13% move, only pulled back 1.5% last week, only 3% off of its high. So that's another strong name that's hanging in there. GEV, just forming this flat base pattern. Obviously, it had this IPO breakout and run. A lot of people want to say that's a high type flag. Whatever floats your boat. A pattern is a pattern, but this is in a flat base pattern, has been here, since what, November 11th. So it ran up after the election, just kind of stalled, trading sideways, pulled back to the 50 for the first time since the breakout. So I expect this thing to make new highs here, maybe the first month of the year. We'll have to wait and see how things go in January. MSTR, this one, he keeps buying more Bitcoin and it keeps faltering. This is a big breakout here, big breakout from 200 to 543, pulled back to the 50. Found support, rallied a little bit, but rejected at the 21. Now back to the 50. That does not look good to me at all. I could see that thing piercing the 50 and saying adios, muchachos. So that one's just barely hanging on. DoorDash, another one that I liked, pulling back in light volume here. 6.8% off of its 52-week high. It pulled back to its 50 for the first time since breaking out, then ran up to the 21, got rejected, now pulled back to the 50 again. So this thing needs to bounce, or else it's adios muchachos for DoorDash. Netflix, another stock, obviously, the king of stream. They got the NFL games on Christmas Day. People liked it. Who doesn't like football? Come on. This is formed a 3 weeks tight pattern, only 3.6% off of its high. So Netflix looking pretty good there. It closed on Friday, just a tick above its 21. So that thing needs to bounce. Palantir has been a software monster. Our friend Dan Ives at Wedbush calls it the AI, Messi of AI, which is, Messi, great soccer player, but 6.7% off its 52-week high. Made that high last week at 84.80 and then pulled back on lighter volume on Thursday and Friday. Deckers, which is a leading, retail shoe name, just, broke out of this base, surfing its moving average like Bethany Hamilton, doing nothing wrong. Fantastic stock longer term. ALAB, I mentioned this is one of my holdings. It's also surfing its moving average. I could switch it over to the 5, and you will see that it's just pulling back to the 5 consistently. One of these times, it's not going to find support and bounce. But that's been the pattern so far. And like I said, I'm going to ride that trend until it bends at the end. So, and it hasn't been yet. So we'll see what happens here. Actually, I'm going to be a wise guy and tell a lie, not like George Washington told a lie. And yeah, there it is. Came back to the 5 on Friday there and bounced a little bit. It closed, I want to say about 40% of the daily range, 31% of its daily range. Not bad. 1.7% above the 5 EMA. So that one looks good. And the other one that I like is Reddit. I hold. So this thing closed. You can see it's also riding. It's 5 like Bethany Hamilton on Friday, traded below it, closed a tick above it. But Reddit looks darn good to me, breaking out of that IPO base and showing strength. And so, when these leaders start to fail, I would imagine the market's going to fail as well. The Broadcoms and the Teslas and those names, as long as they're holding the market up, the Nasdaq should be doing okay. Datadog is another one that I own, another software name. This one pulled back to its moving averages the last 3 weeks. Volume drying up there. Let's see what that looks like on the daily. Yeah, maybe a trip to the 50s in order for Datadog. TGTX, this is one of the biotech names that I like, multiple sclerosis drug. And you can see on the daily, made this high of 36.84, pulled back to its 21. On lighter volume here, you can see the volume's drying up. Let's see what it looks like on the weekly. There you go. That little bull wedge pattern, which was, really serving us well not too long ago. But, the market's changed a little bit. Powell really shook things up with his, less, interest rate cuts maybe than expected. This is SOFI, which you can see it's in a flat base pattern here, made that new high. And then there it goes, 1661. And it did trade above that, but it did pull back to its 21. This one looks fine as well. December 18th, which is the PAL day, 1719. A lot of stocks and indexes made their high that day and can't get back above it. So he definitely put a hurt on the market. Dutch Bros made that high of 56.10, pulled back to the 21, and then made a run at 56.10, got up to 55.86 on Thursday, and then pulled back on Friday, like a lot of other stocks. But that one looks good as well. CRDO is another one of these AI names, made this big move and now just kind of flagging here at an inside week last week, up 1.4%. So Credo doing nothing wrong. AXON, this was included into the S&P 500, ran up to almost 700, 698.67, pulled back to the 21, closed Friday 2.2% below the 21. This is like one of the leaders I'm talking about now, starting to show weakness here. So another one that I'm watching. And the last one, I mentioned Reddit, Google. Okay, I'm going to stop there. That's enough. Have a happy new year. I'll have for the folks at mcstockcharts.com, I'll have a new ready list on Monday morning. I'm going to stay on green. I'm going to stay positive, but I'm very concerned and definitely cautious. Like I said, I reduced my position to 30% with just 3 names. So anyway, in honor of the great Steve Jobs, I have one more thing, and that is these these anything with quantum, right? Anything related to it. This is a Taiwan-based company, Gorilla. This is a guy making a gorilla move. I don't think it's a gorilla stock, but it's making a gorilla move. There you can see, man, it was not very long ago, it was a $2 stock, closed at 1888 on Friday. So that is a gorilla move there. $3, after the election, what was it, November 20th? Man, That is a gorilla move. And then the Rigetti is one that's making another move. This one actually has some sales with quantum. Some of these have nothing to do with quantum computing, but they're just going up. QUBT, just pointing it out. Like I say, if I was in an investment challenge, I'd be trading these day trading. I wouldn't hold them overnight though, because I don't want to wake up with a 20%, morning loss. That's a headache I don't need. D-Wave Quantum. I don't believe these guys are quantum, but I don't know that much about them. LUNR is another one. Made a new high on Friday. These things, if you just look at the weekly, man, only up 35%. This thing's a laggard. IONQ was up last week. This is one that, has some sales and has quantum computing, unlike some of the others. QMCO, this is one I don't believe has any quantum involved. It's just name quantum data storage play. Yeah, they make tape drives. Anyway, up 53% last week, on top of a week where it was up 156%. And the following week, the prior week was 30%. It gapped up this week 90% on the 29th. So these things are just going parabolic for really no reason at all. I believe they probably end poorly for the shareholders. That's why I wouldn't want to hold them. This is Red Cat. This is a drone, software drone name, up 14% last week. They just reported earnings. Uh, yeah, anyway, just pointing out this strength. And then Rocket Lab. This one actually looks pretty good. Pulled back to it. So when it made that new high of 28.10 on whatever day that was, the 29th, says 28.5, but close enough. 28.10 on the December 2nd. Pull back to its 21, then bounced last week. So that looks pretty good on a week where it's pretty rotten week last week. Pretty tough week for a lot of stocks. It was up nearly 10%. Anyway, just pointing out some strength. Be careful in this market. January, first couple weeks, pretty challenging to trade. I'm being cautious, but I'm going to stay on green as long as those leaders are, above their moving averages. I'm going to stick with them. Anyway, at mcstockcharts.com, we never give up. So don't give up either. Thanks for watching.